Looking for things to do in Nassau? Come tour the Pompey Museum of Slavery and Emancipation with me. I'm officially on vacation, so I'm treating myself to a staycation. And staycation doesn't necessarily mean, cooping up in a hotel, even though that's nice too. But a staycation is also exploring all of the good things to do on this little island. So follow me as I go into the newly opened Pompey Museum. The Pompey Museum the Pompey Museum of Slavery and Emancipation. They just reopened yesterday, and I lead tours there just about every other day, and I've actually never checked them out. So follow me.
So that's what that's really about. Then it shows you how people would have become enslaved and stuff in Africa. Prisoners of war, that's an obvious one, because any people fighting against each other, whoever knows, they take a couple of people, you know what I mean? And then criminals, so it's a form of crime and punishment. I killed the breadwinner in this one family, that means I enslaved in that family to fit that for what I did. It wasn't just this sinister, and of course it wasn't based on this arbitrary capitalism, just producing as much as you can, hoarding things, so, and then of course, and then debt bondage is another one, like you keep borrowing money, you can't pay it back. But in Africa, it was no permanent thing. We have many kings and queens who started out in Africa as servants and things like that, and they realized because of their talents, It wasn't like here where it was based on your race, not even your color, but they saw as your race. So once you was African descended, in any degree, you was addressed as being a slave, and your children, their children, for your whole life. You know what I mean? And then of course it was completely removed from being human. They come to the Bahamas in 1860. They come from the Congo River. A lot of them mostly was children. A lot of them ended up seeing this the thing about, because I don't like the term liberated African. Now, liberated would refer to, because you have some African Americans, people coming from other countries where they was already slaves. Then the ship they catch and then they liberated. But for people who come from Africa, who was already free, and then come on the slave ship, and they get released from that, but they still have to come here and serve 7 to 14 years. And this is a good example here. So in the 1860s and 70s, these children was raking salt in an island in Turks Island.
So this is the picture of an opera?
Yeah. No, this is Lincoln Key, where the Peter Mowell crashed. This is an unpopulated key off the eastern side of Abaco.
Okay.
Abaco, in my book, I really try to focus every island, some couple islands I try to make known for certain things. So Abaco was crazy in the sense that so much slave ships wrecked around Abaco. It's like a ridiculous amount. And it's almost like some type of force was out there, it's just letting them die. Like real hard. Like something was going on. Right. So something was going on there. But this the model of how they was rescued. They used the spar from the ship. The slave master, slavers and stuff who was on the ship, they would actually offer some Bahamians like 40,000 pounds and things like that. And it was like, nope. And a lot of them ended up in Congo town. Many of the Harveys, like even Iliana, I believe, descended from people that came on the ship from the Congo River. Yeah, they built the church. People from the ship built the church. St. Paul's on Burnett Road in Fox Hill.
Yeah.
The Native Baptist Church got built from them.
Okay.
Yeah. So anytime you see Native Baptist Church, that was an attempt by Africans. It wasn't just a Christian, it was an attempt by us to, even though some of them would have been indoctrinated, not even right, but us, and separate from the European version of it. And even some of the old Native Baptist churches now moved the Native Baptist part because they already conform to the wider Baptist thing. But like St. John's still is a Native Baptist, whereas Bethel Baptist, even though they was the first one, ended up over time conforming, and that's what caused the split between them. It sounded like we in on them on day run.
So this is Manila.
Yeah, these
And
was
kissy
forms
penny.
of currency. So these they would just wear as like bracelets and stuff.
See
It
here?
symbolized wealth.
Like
But
my
you know what,
copper
we was,
bracelet.
like things wasn't just one thing.
Same thing.
Things served numerous purposes. So while there was bracelets for aesthetics and looking pretty and stuff like that, there was also forms of currency. These they used to carry in bundles. And now what I just discovering now, this is what's called I did the research on this, it's called a kissy penny. This kissy penny was found in Jumbay Village. Right? And you know Jumbay Village, a lot of the stuff they got was from people who was descended from liberated Africans, get passed down and stuff. And so this was a form of currency in Sierra Leone up until like the 1950s even. But they used to use it as scrapers as well. Now the interesting thing is, where the Kissy people from in eastern Sierra Leone is known as the Gola Mountains or the Gola Hills. So my theory is possibly that might be where the term Gullah or language come from. And then what tripped me out is they have a village in the middle of their kingdom named Bahama Bay.
Oh wow.
University of Sankore, one of the oldest universities in the world. London University of Salamanca, one of the oldest universities in Europe. They get their curriculum and their whole platform from them, as well as many others. You know all about the Moors from 711, 14, and let's bring all of that into this. Of course, ancient Ghana or Wagadu. You know what I mean? The king could have summoned 200,000 warriors like that. That same king, he also used to feed 10,000 people a day in his palace. So that just would give you the level of civilization, the level of organization and things like that. This goes up like feasts every day. You know? Right. Yeah. Oh, Massimus, yeah, from flicking West Africa to Saudi Arabia, like from Mali to Mecca,
And
then,
it does,
you know, he gave away so much gold while he's doing that.
Right.
He messed up people because he was giving away too much gold, you know. So,
and his brother sailed to South America?
right, his uncle, Kankan Musa,
Okay.
aka Abu Bakr II. When you hear about Africans who made it to the West before Columbus, he is
He
one of
was
the
one of them.
confirmed ones. Confirmed. Because he sent over like 200 ships. I think like 6 returned. But then they started to find stuff like corn in these people's diet before Columbus reached over there. And they would find them things over there, maize and things. And some of them was even testing positive for, I don't want to say cocaine, but the drug within cocaine. It was in that cocoa leaves, right? So that don't show you that, you know, because we always didn't know just because of the currents running hard, there'll been 1 or 2 who would make it, but that show you that wouldn't, I mean, right, exactly. See what I'm saying? So when you look at this whole industry, you have to look at who the main benefactors are. Slavery, and see these lose sight. Slavery destroyed West Africa, bro, and built up Europe and the Western world. So when you look at Gorée Island in Senegal, and you look at Paris in France, Gorée Island flicking people poor, people, you know what I'm saying? Like they ain't getting nothing wrong there, bro. People begging. And Paris, we know Eiffel Tower, this and all type of thing, bro. So we see, and then that's all a part of the propaganda. And that came from when the British abolished the slave trade. And even though they make the most money from it, remember all of a sudden now they became the great people like William and Clark. We just the ones who free and everything, you know, and so that's the attitude. And that went along with that. The propaganda was, we got to stop all these black people from enslaving each other. But don't forget, this is the mid-1800s going into late 1800s, just the scramble of Africa we talking about. Right. So while they having this scramble for Africa, their excuse was, well, these Africans still enslaving each other, but we got to go there and stop slavery and spread Christianity. And exactly, and that's how all this garbage come about. And when you actually read the slave narratives, more than half of them tell you that white people, Europeans, physically went into their village and captured them. So even the whole story about this, how Africans captured them and marched them to the coast, all even that, because they had Europeans at every rung of it, but all these forts on the coast was operated and controlled by Europeans.
Yeah.
And when Africans had control, used to happen, the slavery used to stop. So how is it that they trying to convince us? You understand what they saying? But right, and, right now, you see what they saying? Like, think about if someone conquered the Bahamas, right? And they start using these divide and conquer techniques, but you can see people separating based on all types of things. Grand Bahama versus Nassau versus Freeport. If the people in Nassau team up with Britain, and Britain giving them cannons and guns and bombs, you can sit there and they coming for you. What you can do, you can say, oh, well, you know what? I don't want to do no business with the French, and you learn what you will have to do some business with some of them so you can get some guns and things too. That's what John Canoe did. But the genius with John Canoe, he teamed up with the Germans. And when the Germans they get bought out by the other European countries and they had to sell their possessions to the Dutch, that's when he take off. He's like, oh, you thought I was with you? Like, yeah, I was always for myself and my people, bro. And then he had all the guns.
But I get what you're saying.
Right. But he had all the guns and the cannons. He was doing it from
whatever he had.
Right, he was a general. So he ain't thinking about it from morality. He thinking about it
From
from
a military
I gotta protect
perspective. Yep.
what's here. You see the right. Right, and who with me, right? But even with John Canoe, his troops, he had like 14 different tribes within the troops. You see what I'm saying? Because he was like the special one that had the foresight to look at it as a African versus European thing before other people kind of saw it like that. So it ain't just how they try to portray it, like a bunch of Africans capture other Africans and set them to Europeans. Right? Yeah.
They are still in
Style, you want to call it.
Yeah.
That would be the same.
Neck that was supposed to fit on.
Yeah.
Got team, Liverpool, everybody's cheerful.
And that is also the birthplace of what we know as the Industrial Revolution. And the reason why, in my view, why they don't put the names of these ships there is because they attach them to certain cities, certain companies, certain well-known people.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And these ships,
Liverpool would be connected to Barclays Bank too, right?
yep, the founders of Barclays Bank from Liverpool, the founders of the British banking system essentially from Liverpool. And a lot of them own slaves in the Bahamas as well. And sponsor slave trading voyages to the Bahamas too. See what I'm saying? So I have all that in there, bro. And some of these banks,
The ship is
right
called
here, right now.
the Liverpool. So
Literally
next
make like
time
money
you're cheering
directly
for
from our ancestors,
Liverpool,
and now they here firing us and dingling us.
do remember this image in your head that the ship is named the Liverpool. So a lot of this information now, it's misinformation, and it's left up to historical interpretation to determine what was really the truth. And so what Christopher, who's the curator here at the Pompey Museum, is explaining is that a lot of this information has to be changed out, right? Because it still plays into that colonial narrative that we've been fed for so long. But definitely still come and check this place out, right? It's a lot to be learned that I'm sure he probably didn't learn in school.
The bolts and nails from that ship, the Peterman well that they found. These were found by Dr. Michael Pateman. I don't know if you all know Michael Pateman.
I'm familiar with
Michael Pateman.
Michael Bateman.
And Kelly Delante, now Kelly Fowler, you know, and Corey Malcolm, he's the one from the States. But they is the ones who found it based on like the ship records and all of that, the shipwreck, and then they go under the Nikki died. They're all on the kiosk and they have pictures of them doing it. But these are actual nails from the ship, you know what I mean?
Such an enlightening time here today with Chrissy walking us through all of these different experiences and historical timelines of the Bahamas past. Please come and check out the newly reopened Pompey Square, the Pompey Museum of Slavery and Emancipation, here in the Pompey Square. And be sure to get this guy as your guide. Hey, that's my good cousin, Mr. Christopher Davis. Come see him here at the Pompey Museum of Slavery and Emancipation.
Yes.
He is the historical interpreter. I get it right?
Yeah.
All right. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you soon.